Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So, today's episode is well near and dear to my heart because if you haven't noticed, I'm kind of a budget player. I like to play budget. In fact, I like to play with some very low budgets, and I like to prove that you can play Commander on a budget and be successful in pretty much whatever pod you're playing in. I mean, I guess I don't play in CDH, so maybe not those pods, but obviously those pods Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So today's episode is an exciting one, and I would really love to hear from you in the comments below because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions on this. Today I'm going through my picks for my budget Power 9. Now, the original Power 9 in Magic are some really old and overpowered cards. You got, well, D5 Moxen, you've got Black Lotus, you got 3 blue cards because blue is overpowered, but basically, you got those cards. All of them but one are banned in Commander. We also have the Commander Power 9, which has changed over the years, and that is just completely, based on everyone's own opinions. You can check out my Power 9 on a separate episode that I'll hopefully remember to link right here. Regardless, on this episode, every single card is less than $1. So what are the budget Power 9? Let's jump into it. So first up, and I'd like to mention these are in no particular order. We've got Command Tower. Command Tower is a card that is pretty absurd. I mean, if this was in another format, they'd be like, wait, what? It does what? A land, very simply, that says tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Basically, perfect mana fixing on a land with absolutely no downside. I mean, I guess the only downside is this isn't a basic land, so you can't just, search for a rampant growth. But other than that, it's no. This is just perfect mana fixing on a land. No downside, no requirements. It's just, hey, what colors do you need for your commander? Unless you're send triplets, I guess, but that's very specific. What colors do you need for your commander? You get exactly those. Coming to play untapped. This is massive. I mean, again, there are very few cards out there that can, just be that much better than the rest of the competition. It is literally just Command Tower, 5,000 feet of air, and then maybe Exotic Orchard, I guess. And then 5,000 more feet of air, and then maybe other things too. Very, very good card. Hard to debate that it is one of the best lands out there in Commander, if not the best land out there. Yeah, things like Gaia's Cradle exist and that kind of stuff, but this is just applying to every single deck out there outside of monocolor. Monocolor does not need this, and I guess colorless really definitely does not need this, but still, it is a card that, again, literally is just hate to say auto-include, but if you have 2+ colors, it's auto-include, and it has been printed to the point that it is finally incredibly budget-friendly, just 25 cents a piece. A crazy, crazy good card. Yeah, Command Tower, I mean, just in this format even, it might be heresy to say it, but it's even better than Alpha Dual lands because those come into play tapped and tap for 2. Yes, you can tutor for them, but again, just if you have in your hand, you're playing it. This is just vastly better than a dual land that is overpowered, expensive, comes into play untapped. This is just better. A crazy good card. Command Tower, welcome to the budget Power 9. Moving on, though, we've got a card that this one might be highly debated. And actually, I talked to some of my play group and basically just was like, hey, what about this or that or this? And I kind of actually landed on Dig Up as a card that, in my opinion, is worthy of the title of Power 9. Tutor effects are crazy powerful. Let's read this one real quick. Sorcery for a single green mana. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal, put your hand, then shuffle. If it was just that, yeah, that's pretty hot garbage. We already have other cards that do exactly that. But it is not just that. It has cleave for 1 black, black, and a green. If you cast for its cleave cost, remove those words in square brackets. So then it says, search life for a card, put in your hand, then shuffle. So that's a flexible tutor for you early in the game. If you need that mana fixing, perfect. 1 mana, go get that land, hit that land drop, fix your mana base. That being said, though, hey, later in the game, when you need to tutor for a specific card, this is a crazy good effect. Again, basically, DboT tutor, yes, slightly more restrictive casting cost, but again, if you are in green, chances are very likely that you can fix your mana very, 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 very easily because you have so much good and effective ramp. And when comparison to DboT Tutor, it's just like 1 mana more when it comes to restrictive. It's the exact same mana cost overall at 4, but it's still black, and 2 for DboT. This is 1 black, and a green. So the green is the only kind of restricted part of it. And again, chances are you probably have green. But yes, this card is crazy good, crazy efficient, crazy effective. Yeah, at the higher cost, I mean, are there more tutors out there that are more efficient? Yeah, Demonic Tutor, is obviously a crazy good card, and maybe even in the Power 9 for no budget restriction. But that being said, it doesn't mean that these tutors at 4 aren't incredibly powerful. And again, this is flexible. This can be casting before those if you just need to go get that basic early on. And believe me, I have seen players early game go, oh gosh, I shouldn't have kept this hand. I thought I'd draw into something. Turn 2, Demonic Tutor, go get whatever land I need. I mean, usually it's Command Tower, but still, being able to go get a basic that you need, this can be absolutely messy. You haven't utilized this yet, make sure you do so. And here's the thing, I guess, with this list. It's very, very subjective, right? And again, I kind of went back and forth with this one versus Diabolic Tutor because, yeah, Diabolic Tutor applies to more decks out there. This applies to less because it's in 2 colors versus 1. That being said, yeah, with the efficiency and with the flexibility, I nudged it up. So there you go. Moving on. Swords to Plowshares. And for those of you who are like, what about Path to Exile? That one's above $1. Last time I checked, it's above $1. Anyway, Swords to Plowshares, instant for a single white mana. Exile target creature's controller gains life equal to its power. Yeah. 1 mana removal, that's crazy good. And again, they're like, oh, well, here, they got life. I mean, back like then in the day, right, in a 1-on-1 scenario, it's like, oh, I got to give that player 6 life. Darn. Who cares? You gave them life. It really does not matter at all that you are giving them life for the vast majority of the time that you're using this. This is just 1 mana. What's the biggest threat on the board? It is now permanently gone. If you see a player with 1 mana open, 1 white mana open, there's a chance that your biggest, bestest creature is just gone now, which is crazy to think about. So, yeah, Swords to Plowshares, a crazy, awesome, and powerful card. One that, just really overperforms for what it does. And again, there are times, too, where, that life gain can be relevant, sure, in a bad way for you. Not too often, though, but it can also be a good way. It's also flexible in that, like, if you're about to get taken out by someone and you're like, last-ditch effort, I need to actually just get rid of one of my own creatures, gain life equal to that creature's power, and then all of a sudden, I'm back in the game. Yeah, there's ways to do that, too. So, yeah, this is a card that, again, when it comes to getting rid of a creature permanently, 1 mana is just insane. You never see that ever. I mean, and again, when it comes to like that, you'd have like a massive downside of that, but it's not a massive downside. It's a slight downside, even an upside sometimes for you. A crazy good, crazy efficient card. Finally budget friendly with the amount that's been reprinted. I mean, this was Path to Exile used to be like $4 or $5 a piece at the very least. Finally getting reprinted some. This one down to 89 cents right now. And again, at 1 mana, crazy good, crazy efficient, crazy effective. Moving on, though. First up, there's Wayfairs Bobble. I mean, I just decided to go in the order of the cards on Mox Field right now. I think they're just in basically mana value. And for some reason, they put maybe it's a mana value than alphabetical is probably what it is. Regardless, Wayfairs Bobble, yes. Okay, am I being a bit of a fanboy here? Yes, I am. I can admit that. That being said, there is no other card like Wayfairs Bobble. What is one of the most powerful things in Commander? Ramping. When it comes to ramping, what is the best way to ramp? Land ramp. Because in Commander, there's this little thing called, Rule 0, where players don't like when you touch their lands. So therefore, lands are basically protected ramp, and players do not destroy lands. There's no Armageddons. I mean, there are some groups that are okay with it, but the vast majority of players out there are not okay with like an Armageddon. Therefore, when you are ramping, if you're just going and getting basics, cool. Congratulations. All of a sudden, you have a resource that your opponents cannot touch, and you get so far ahead of them. And Wayfairs Bobble is the only way to do that effectively and efficiently for all colors out there. Sorry, sad robot, you're not on this list. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice, go get a base land to play, tap, then shuffle. You get this down on turn 1, turn 2, congratulations, you have a rampant growth. Again, no matter what the color is, it does not matter. No matter what color identity you're in, it does not matter. No matter what land you have to start off with. I mean, I guess as long as they come into play untapped, you can ramp. Rampant Growth can't even say that, right? Again, if you're in a 5-color deck, you play an island on turn 1, you play a swamp on turn 2, congratulations, you can still land ramp on turn 2. You can't do that with Rampant Growth. This is a card that is amazing, is incredible, even works better in artifact-centric decks that really want to take advantage of this maybe being sacrificed, that kind of stuff as well, so keep that in mind. But again, when it comes to doing what it does, it is unique, it is one of a kind, and there is nothing else like it out there. Is land ramp for any color out there, and Wizards does not want to give every color land ramp. They already did with this, and I absolutely love you, Wayfairs Bobble. You had to be in there. You had to be in there, right? You just had to be in my budget paradigm, of course. Next up, what has been called a mistake, even by the creators of it, Arcane Signant. Yeah, this card is kind of a mistake. Artifact for 2, tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So, kind of like Command Tower, but as an artifact, essentially, as a mana rock. Now, when it comes to ramping, and actually before you comment, like, where's Sol Ring? It's over $1, so not on the list. But yes, when it comes to ramping, all right, we want efficiency, and if we don't have overly efficient like Sol Ring where we're willing to sacrifice basically mana fixing, we want mana fixing too. This is both. When it comes to ramping, you want to pay 2 to get 1. That is the rule. For every 2 you pay, you want at least 1. You want half the amount of mana back that you put into it. Sol Ring is a exception to the rule and a card that probably should have been banned when the format started because, well, it's stupidly efficient, right? Like, again, that's like 4 times as efficient, essentially, costing 1 and tapping for 2. The standard when it comes to efficiency is 2 for 1. You want to ramp earlier, so you want to ramp on turn 2, and you want it to tap for 1. And if you can get something that's effective at filtering mana, great. The Signets are incredible because of that. The Talismans are incredible because of that. None of them hold a flame to this because this equals, hey, what color do you need? You get that. You get that color. Unless you're in a colorless commander deck, you're getting the colors that you need, the exact ones that you need, again, on turn 2. It's too easy. It is too efficient. It is too effective at fixing your mana. And again, Wizards literally has said it's a mistake. I believe Gavin did say that making it was a mistake, essentially. I mean, not direct quote, but basically. So basically, yeah, this card is kind of a shoe-in for the Power 9 when it's like, yep, this card just sees play in like every deck out there because we accidentally did something that we probably shouldn't have done because this is just a card that just throw it in any deck out there. Now, I will say when it comes to any deck, depends on the flavor that you like, right? I personally would rather just, if I'm in green, always land ramp. Even if I'm utilizing slightly less efficient cards of it. I mean, you're very efficient in green, but yeah, I'm not going to include Arcane Signant in every single of my green decks. But basically, anything that doesn't have green, yeah, you probably should be throwing this in there. So, there you go. Arcane Signant, a crazy good card. Next up, Counterspell. Simple, effective, finally budget-friendly, 92 cents right now. Instant for blue Counterspell. It is the OG. It is the OG Counterspell, and yeah, you don't see this type of efficiency ever. I mean, okay, set Mana Drain. But Mana Drain is a crazy, broken, expensive card. When it comes to efficient and effective counterspells in budget, my goodness, the OG Counterspell is the best. Just being able to say, no to absolutely anything for 2 mana. Yes, are there other great counterspells out there? Absolutely. Negate is so good, right? 2 mana, 1 and a blue, less restrictive casting cost, counter any non-creature spell. There is that restriction on it, and typically, the vast majority of the time, a non-creature spell is what you want to counter. That's why, and when it comes to like an argument about that, somebody like, well, creatures are very important too, and they are, because, I mean, obviously the game revolves around commanders, and commanders are typically creatures, and so, typically I say it because, like, there's sorceries and enchantment ones anyways, but basically, yeah, there are still times where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I'd rather just counter the non-creature spell because they're the more threatening things. So that's why Negate sees a lot more play than what Essence Scatter or whatever that one is. This gives you both. Yes, is it more restrictive? Sure. But the vast majority of the time, that's not going to matter. And you are going to have that automatic counter whatever you want for just, again, 2 mana. No restriction on it. No like, oh, if you pay 2, you can just decline this or just decline. You can just ignore that. No, like only countering a specific type of spell. No, I mean, most of the other, more flexible ones are at 3 mana or whatnot. But this is just 2 mana. Say no to anything. Absolutely anything. Such a powerful effect. Again, OG did it right. And again, when it comes to Replicating this, they really haven't replicated it nearly exactly, except for, like, again, Mandrain, which is just strictly better. But, again, Mandrain's like a $30, $40 card or whatever it is. So, yeah, when it comes to budget, you can't beat Counterspell. Crazy good card. At 2 mana, you also can't really beat Despark. Now, this is kind of the other side of that argument, all right? And I just kind of went hard on Counterspell saying, like, oh, yeah, it can counter anything. Despark cannot get rid of anything, but it gets rid of the most important things out there. Instant for Orzhov colors, white and black, 2 mana. Exile target permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Now, Swords of Plowshares, incredibly good card. Again, costs 1 less than this. It is restricted to just creatures, though, which are incredibly powerful to, just get rid of for 1 mana. Obviously, we already talked about that. There is a downside to that as well, where you give that player life. Again, slight downside, but still, this has no downside to it when it comes to, like, hey, I have to exchange this. It has a downside when it comes to what it can target. That being said, when it comes to the biggest threats on the board and things that you panic button need to get rid of, yeah, 2 mana to say, permanently get rid of that. Again, like Swords of Plowshares, exile, gone forever, basically. Unless it's the command or the command zone, you know what I mean. Being able to get rid of anything, though, permanently for just 2 mana, and again, the biggest threats that are out there, it's so efficient, so effective, so low to the ground that you are absolutely going to love this kind of a card. So yes, in my opinion, Despark meets all those requirements, and it is just so good. Are there going to be times when it can miss because, like, oh no, they've got a Champion of Lambholt, which is massive? Yes, there's going to be times like that. But more often than not, the biggest threat on the board is going to be at least 4 mana value, if not greater, in getting rid of someone's Blightsteel Colossus, which cost them, 12 mana or whatever it is to get out, and you just paid a 2 mana spell to get rid of it permanently. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So yeah, Despark, a crazy good removal spell again for just 2 mana. Next up, Mirkwood Bats. This is one that came on the scene in a very big way last year. A 2/3 bat with flying that costs 4 mana in mono black. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. They did not restrict this card really at all, except for the mana value maybe a little bit, but still, you're willing to pay 4 mana to get this out because that is a crazy good effect because, again, they put no training wheels on this at all. This is a card that they could have said, hey, whenever you create or sacrifice a creature token, or just whenever you create a token, or just whenever you sacrifice a token. No, they put no stops on this at all. They knew what they were doing when they were making this card, when they were trying to just push this common as far as they could, I guess. Yeah, this is a crazy good card because of a couple of reasons. Number 1, token creating decks, creature token creating decks are incredibly powerful and very abundant theme. Yeah, one of the top themes on EDH. Oh, also, there's this little thing that came onto the scene a couple years ago called Treasures, and it's everywhere. Treasures are everywhere, and they keep making more things. Wizards, please stop with the treasures, okay? We've had enough of it, okay? This is too much now at this point. Anyways, treasures are a massive thing, and some people think a massive problem. Regardless, it is a thing that you essentially can make on the same turn, sacrifice on the same turn, and get value out of with that mana. Congratulations, you were just boosting yourself with mana. But also with Mirkwood Bats in play, you're like, oh, okay, also, so I got this treasure, I made it. Cool, drain you all for 1, that's 3 in total. Oh, I'd like to use that mana right away. Tap, sacrifice, give me a mana. Cool, oh, drained you again. Oh, I just drained 6 total life for making a singular treasure. And there are plenty of ways to make an absurd amount of treasure. Just think about like a Brass's Bounty. If you got 7 lands in play, congratulations. Tap, sacrifice those, you get 7 mana, and you just drained your opponents for making and sacrificing those for 14. Each. That is 42 life lost because you cast a spell and then just utilize the function of that spell. So yes, that's just one aspect of that with treasures. Of course, again, like I already talked about, like creature tokens. There's an absurd amount of decks out there that love making creature tokens and other kinds of tokens too. You've got clues, you've got blood, you've got food, you got all these other kinds of tokens that we're getting nowadays. And this is just like, oh yeah, you created that, cool. Oh, you sacrificed it, cool. Whatever you are doing, drain your opponents absurdly quickly with a great finisher like this. All right, here we go. I believe this is the last one out of these. Austere Command. Austere Command has made my budget power 9 because this is a card that has withstood the test of time when it comes to just how effective it is because of its flexibility. Now, are there other cards out there that are now more flexible because Wizards is like, well, you know what? let's sell a set. We're going to make a board wipe that's the exact same cost, but even more flexible. Great. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Farewell is what I'm talking about. That's a very expensive card these days, though. But Austere Command has been reprinted to the ground, just 39 cents right now. Absolutely love it. Choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with mana value 3 or less, destroy all creatures with mana value 4 or greater. 6 mana in total. Yes, is that expensive for a board wipe? Yeah. I mean, Wrath of God, again, was like the standard of a board wipe for the longest time at 4 mana. That being said, this is so incredibly flexible. Again, if you've got the best creature base on the board, if you have the best situation when it comes to combat, great. Don't pick any creatures. Wipe out all those pesky artifacts and enchantments that you don't want there. Or conversely, hey, I've got some good enchantments out here. I don't have any artifacts out here. And I've got some really small creatures. Let's get rid of the big creatures. Let's get rid of the artifacts. And all of a sudden, I wipe things out. This makes it so one-sided. This makes it so good for you that, again, no matter what your situation is, you've got a panic button that can solve nearly everything. Nearly everything you need, you can solve with this kind of a card. Austere Command is so good. In my opinion, it's withstood the test of time, and it is a card that, again, is a one-sided board wipe, and for a one-sided board wipe at 6 mana, that's really good. It will save you in so many circumstances. So yeah, Austere Command, congratulations on making the budget power 9. But now let's talk about the cards that I did not include on this list, and I heavily debated these, and I sent them on our play group, just like the full list. I was like, okay, where am I really wrong on? Where am I really right on? And where do we disagree? And there's a lot of disagreement and a lot of, again, different perspectives because, hey, it's subjective, right? It is subjective. Everyone has a different playing experience, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below what your thoughts are on all these. But here are the cards that I did consider as well. The honorable mentions. First up, Curse of Opulence. Okay, this card is budget friendly again. Used to be like $5 or so. Enchant player or curse for a single red mana. Whenever enchant player is attacked, create a gold token. Each opponent attacking the player does the same. This is one that you get down early. You put a target on someone else's back, a massive target that is hard for them to ignore because they're like, free value for me. That also gives you value, and of course, you're the one who gets that value for the one attacking them as well. That being said, again, even better than treasure generation, this is gold generation because you don't have to tap and sacrifice that treasure. If there's like a blind obedience, that doesn't matter. So essentially, yeah, just an absurd amount of mana value. Again, getting it down early, repeatable value. Curse of Opulence definitely made my honorable mentions. Next up, Dramatic Reversal. This is one that I will say that Eddie convinced me down from actually having it. It was one of my original lists on this. Dramatic Reversal is a crazy powerful combo card, but also it is a card that is somewhat a ritual and also kind of like a combat trick all in one. Instant for 1 and a blue, untap all non-land permanents you control. Famously, combos with Ice-Crown Scepter, which is not budget. Also combos in a decent amount of other ways, and mostly not budget or requiring like 3+ cards essentially. So because of all that, I decided to take Dramatic Reversal out. Congratulations, Eddie. Or actually blame Eddie in the comments below if you believe that Dramatic Reversal should still be in the Budget Hall of Fame in the Power 9. Regardless, a very good card. Next up, Evolution Sage. This one, yes, is specific, but its power level is just crazy. 88 cents, 3/2 Elf Druid for 3 mana in total. Landfall, whenever land is battlefield control, proliferate. Yeah. Landfall decks are very, very powerful. Landfall is very, very good. You're in green, obviously, and there are plenty of ways to ramp. Plenty of fetch lands out there. I mean, we just got like Escape Tunnel too, so like plenty of fetch lands that work even on a budget with this. Being able to just get that effect for free, essentially, just for playing the game. Crazy good in the right decks out there. That was probably lower on my honorable mentions list, but I just want to bring it up. Moving on. Genesis Wave with a reprint, now budget-friendly, 80-cent source for X, green. Wheel the top X card to your library, put any number of permanent cards of mana value X less than on the battlefield, put all cards of this way that weren't put on the battlefield in your graveyard. This is either just like a massive, let's get a lot of things out and ramp spell, or an I win the game right now spell with enough mana into it. It's a very powerful card, and there's a lot of ways in Commander making a lot of mana. Yeah, definitely a very powerful card. Next up, JSK Tendency. Yet another kind of like I win combo card. It's a card that you gotta be careful against. If you see this on the field, you gotta take it out quite quickly or you're probably gone in absolutely no time. Enchantment for JSK colors. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creature control get +1 until in turn, untap those creatures. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card if you discard a card. It says like 2 ends of a combo to you because it's like, oh, whenever you're casting a non-creature spell, you get both of those things every single time. So you're getting card selection with that looting. You also get untapping. Now, it is only creatures, and that's why this kind of stops it. Essentially, it doesn't stop it, but if it was like, hey, like dramatic reversal, all non permanents, yeah, that would be absurdly broken. But that being said, of course, there are things out there called mana dorks, which can tap for mana and have other tap abilities. So, yeah, tap for mana, cast another creature spell. Oh, cool, I dig down in my deck. Do another one, do another one. There's a lot of comp potential with a card like this. It is quite powerful. Next up at 3 mana as well, Ringside. This one was heavily debated toward the end. I ended up including Dig Up as my kind of like tutor in my top 9. I thought there had to be a tutor in there because like there's some very powerful budget tutors. Didn't have to be, but Ringside is a very good one. Source for 3 mana in total in Dimir. The ring tempts you, search life for a card that shows a color with a legendary creature control. Reveal, open your hand, then shuffle. Again, when the ring's tempting you, you're making any of your creatures legendary, essentially. So as long as you have a creature on the board that has a color of a card that you want out of your deck, congratulations. You are getting that card for, again, just 3 mana, which is definitely underneath the curve for when it comes to tutors, especially in budget. Again, like Demonic, yeah, that's the thing, right? At 2 mana. Other than that, there's not many out there that do that. And at 4 mana, yeah, DboT is very, 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 very good. This is underneath that at 3. Again, underneath Dig Up as well. Doesn't have that flexibility. Also requires you to have a creature in play. And again, one with a color that you want. Typically, you will have that if your commander is in play, of course. So most of the time you have it. That being said, because of that extra little restriction in not that flexibility of Dig Up, I included Dig Up and not Ringside in my list. Though, again, this one is incredibly powerful. Next up. Again, I kind of include some like specific ones in this as well, but just like the impact that shared animosity can have on the game for any tribal deck out that has red is absurd. Enchantment for 2 and a red. Whenever creature control attacks, gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shows a creature type with it. You ever played against this card? It's just a game ender. Just oh, okay, cool. Oh, you're playing goblins. Oh, you got a bunch of tiny little goblins. Who cares? Oh no. You throw one of these down with some of your creatures getting like +10/+0. Any of your creatures can take out any of your opponents. Yeah, again, I'd say it's one that's lower on the honorable mentions list because, again, it is specific, but very, very, very impactful. Next up, speaking of impactful, one of the earlier on big finishers, I would say that I remember from Commander was Death the Deathless. Source for X, white, white, black, black. Each opponent loses 2 times X life. You gain life, you lost, life lost this way. Yeah, if you've got a big mana deck, this is just a finisher that will do the job for you because 2 times X life is an absurd amount, and also gaining that much life too. It's going to pad your life total. Even if you take out, say, 2 players and one's left, you've got an absurd amount of life. You've got ways to take them out. You got time because you're able to do that. But yeah, a fantastic finisher. I would say has been somewhat outclassed by some other finishers more recently, but still a very, 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 very good one. And it's going to be hard to argue against just dumping a ton of mana into this versus something else when it comes to finishing out a game. Next up, DboT here, mentioned a couple times. This one's price keeps going up, actually, and then like going slightly down once it's reprinted again, then up again. It's just right around the $1 mark every time. Source for 4 mana in total, 2 black, black. Search life for a card, put a card in your hand, then shuffle your library. Literally, again, even though Demonic Tutor is obviously strictly better than this, Demonic is at 1 and a black, half the mana value of this, half the restriction essentially. Yeah, this is still a heavily played card for a reason. Getting any card out of your deck for just 4 mana is an absurd effect. Again, with no downside, no restriction on what type of card it has to be. Yeah, it's good. It's so, so, so good. And again, there was definitely a debate of like, okay, this, Ringside, or Dig Up. And I eventually went with Dig Up just because, again, it is more flexible. Earlier on, it can be like, yeah, I need to go get that basic land to essentially make sure I don't miss a land drop, make sure I hit my curve, make sure that I fix my mana. And I have seen players out there before cast, again, Demonic, cast actually DboT to go get a land as well. Is that typical? Not as typical, obviously, but still, it happens. So, yes, it's slightly more restricted for Dig Up. This one's slightly less restricted, but again, I think that flexibility really pumped up Dig Up for me. And yes, I agree. That could be a debate of like, well, this can go to more decks. I agree. It can definitely go into more decks because it's in mono black versus in Golgari colors. That being said, an incredibly good card, definitely worthy of being considered for the budget Power 9. Just didn't quite make it. Next up, maybe I have a thing for Landfall, I guess, when it comes to like throwing Landfall in here because Felder Retreat, not in green. So again, unlike Evolution Sage, not in green, but let's just assume that you are in green and that you have, again, fetch lands. You've got ways to ramp lands. Maybe just called lamp. Whenever a land is battlefield control, choose 1, 2/2 cat. Counter on each creature control. This creature gain vigilance left turn. So this is a card that can actually make you an army and also make that army massive in absolutely no time. That's the reason it made this list. I would say it's lower on the budget Power 9 list, but it came to my mind. I was like, I just got to at least discuss it. Okay, moving on. Forgotten Ancient. It's a crazy good card. 0/3 elemental for 4 mana. Whenever a player casts a spell, put a counter on Forgotten Ancient. If you have your upkeep, remove any number of counters from Forgotten Ancient on other creatures. Yeah, just really takes advantage of you being in a multiplayer format. Okay, again, and just a one-on-one, not all that great. It's not a bad card, but it's not all that great. In a multiplayer format, it's like, oh yeah, casting spells, casting spells, casting spells. It's going to get at least 4+ counters. Every single trip around the table can be a threat in of itself, and of course can make other things into threats. It works very well, of course, in decks that like proliferate, care about counters on creatures, essentially. You can do a lot of crazy things with a card like this, and again, just really take advantage of being in a multiplayer format. Next up, Doom Whisperer. Speaking of taking advantage of things, you have 40 life. That is 20 more than is typical in Magic, essentially, in any other format out there. 6/6 Nightmare Demon, Flample, Doom Whisperer for 5 mana. Again, this is just like back in the day. If you're like, okay, well, you have a 6/6 Trampler. What's that cost you? 7! Okay, nowadays it's like 5. Oh, by the way, also pay 2 life surveilled too. Oh my goodness. Okay, so when it comes to abusable effects, ones that are based just solely on life are incredibly abusable. There's no mana cost to this, which means that this is infinitely repeatable until you run out of life, essentially, right? So basically, you can just keep surveilling again, and again. Being able to dig down into your deck that is card selection, not card advantage, card selection, though technically card advantage when it comes to utilizing cards out of your graveyard, maybe things with flashback, etc. But yes, this is just repeatable, free, except for when it comes to life. I mean, this is not technically free, but it's basically free in Commander. Card selection on a 6/6 Flampling body. Okay, this is just an absurdly good card. Is it better with certain decks out there? Obviously. Ones that care about their graveyard, ones that care about things hitting your graveyard. But yeah, I mean, life gain decks too, because you can just say like, oh yeah, cool, I'm at 300 life. I can just dig through my entire deck to get to whatever I want, essentially. So it's a very, very good card. Again, I would say once lower on the actual honorable mentions, but one that just really, really hits home, and one that can't believe his budget at 48 cents. Next up, Parag Drake. Eddie again convinced me not to include this one as well, because kind of like Dramatic Reversal, the most powerful combos with this one are like 2 cards that are both... I mean, the other one of this is going to be a bit more expensive, like Eldrazi Displacer or Deadeye Navigator. I don't know why I said those in Reverse Order. It's always Deadeye Navigator, then Eldrazi Displacer. There's other ones, that Unicorn as well. Emil the Blessed? There we go. Anyways, there's a lot of combos with this. This card combos with a ham sandwich. Most of those ham sandwiches, though, are more expensive than budget, so I didn't include it. Of course, there are also other ways to combo with it, though, like Archaeomancer plus Ghostly Flicker plus this. There's a lot of different combinations of that. There's a lot of different Archaeomancers, a lot of different blink effects that can blink 2 things, essentially. There's so many ways to combo with this. It's absurd, and you don't just win, but you have infinite mana, and usually can win with that in a multitude of ways. Also, outside of combo 2, and that's the other reason I kind of want to bump it into there, but I end up not. Like, in a blink deck, this is just inherently an incredibly strong thing. Because, yeah, you got, like, Brago as your commander. You're like, okay, cool. I'll blink everything I want. Yeah, sure, I'll blink Parag Drake too. Oh, I just get 5 free mana. Maybe even more than that if you got, like, a bounce land to play, too. So... yeah, it's a crazy, crazy good card. I guess I should have said what it does. For those who don't know, a 2/3 Drake with flying that costs 5, enters the battlefield, untap 5 lands. Yep, crazy good. You're either going to get the mana back from it that you made, or even more, or again, go infinite, or just get absurd amounts of value. So yeah, Parag Drake, a crazy good card. Next up, Port Razor. This one might surprise some people for being on this list, but this is a crazy good card. 4/4 Orc Pirate for 5. Deals combat to player, untap each creature you control at this combat phase, this combat phase. And it can't detect a player who's already attacked this turn. There aren't many anymore. There aren't many extra combat spells in budget. There really aren't, or extra combat effects. Because Ishin came out and just everyone just was like, extra combats, yes! And then they got really expensive. That being said, there are very few, there are even less ones that can give you 3 extra combats in a turn. How? On a 5 mana creature. Now, this creature has no evasion. Absolutely no evasion. That being said, if you give it any kind of evasion, congratulations. I mean, like Rogue's Passage, congratulations. You get 3 extra combats if you have 3 opponents. So yeah, it's just hit an opponent. Cool, swing in, swing in, swing in. That is basically game over the vast majority of the time when you get something like that. It's a very powerful effect. Again, probably lower on the actual rankings, but just that's a very powerful effect that is in budget, and I want to bring it up. Next up, this one was in the list until it wasn't. Instant for 4 in a green, return the Wild Speaker, choose 1. Draw cards equally grace power among non-human creatures you control. Non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. I always find that non-human part to just be a bit weird. But, I mean, it's fine. Like, I mean, you're not going to be like, oh, no, human trouble decks can't use this, therefore it's a bad card. Not really. No. It's a crazy powerful effect. Either, again, very flexible, 5 mana, instant speed, draw an absurd amount of cards, or 5 mana, instant speed, surprise, opponents lose the game. I mean, not all opponents, but probably one, or maybe all. Basically, though, it is either a combat trick at instant speed, which is a massive pump effect, which can help with a multitude of decks, like just think tokens or, low evasive creatures. Or, hey, yeah, I really need to replenish my hand right before my turn. Oh, my commander's got 7 power. Cool. Yeah, cast this for 5 mana, draw 7 instant speed. Lovely. Again, having that kind of flexibility is just absurd, a crazy good card. Next up, Soul and Strategy. When it comes to card advantage, and it comes to budget, and it comes to repeatable effects, yeah, the most expensive ones out there, I mean, like Rhystic Study, the most efficient ones out there, like Rhystic Study, are going to be expensive. Because, hey, if it can apply to a ton of decks and just give you a ton of card advantage, those cards go up in price. Obviously. Soul and Strategy is a very good one. Enchantment for 5 mana in total in red. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile a top card of each opponent's library. Till end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards. You may spend mana as lower mana of any color to cast those spells. Now, this is temporary card advantage. I agree. Impulse draw. It is also at the top of your opponent's library. So it is more random on what are you getting, obviously, versus, if you're off your own top of the library, it more synergizes with your deck. That being said, getting access to 3 cards on every single turn, I mean, minus lands that you will hit as well. But again, let's say at least 2, maybe even 3 on every single turn that can be valuable for you. Yeah, that's an absurd amount of card advantage, temporary card advantage still, throughout the game. So yeah, Soul and Strategy is a very, very good card. Next up, Tatiova. Goodness gracious. Okay, again, I apparently have a thing for Landfall in these lists. 3/3 Merfolk Druid for 5 mana in total. Definitely the most powerful of these Landfall effects. Landfall, whenever a land is bound for your control, you gain 1 life, draw a card. It is laughable that this was put on an uncommon. I do not know why they made this uncommon, but for budget purposes, I'm happy that they did. This is an absurd effect. This is so much card advantage. It is not even funny. Again, you are in green, so obviously you've got all the land ramp you could ever want. Congratulations, you cast Explosive Vegetation, draw 2 cards. Stapling that onto every single one of your land ramp spells is absurd. Well, 1 for like random growth, but you know what I mean. Even more for the higher end ones. It's 6 mana. You cast like, okay, cool. This is renewal, whatever that one is. Go get 3. Cool. Yeah, though, on top of that, hey, I played an Evolving Wilds. Draw a card, crack it, go get another land from my Evolving Wilds, draw another card. You just played Evolving Wilds, you drew 2 cards and gained 2 life. And again, yeah, I just didn't even mention like the gaining life. Who cares about the life gain? It's nice to have, but still, the important part is that card draw. But yeah, you just get extra life too, because why not? It wasn't enough that you got the cards. It's a crazy good card value engine. If this was, say, on like an enchantment, it would probably be in the budget power 9. It's not a creature. It's easy to remove. That being said, it doesn't completely take it out of the running, but yeah, a crazy, crazy powerful card. Next up, one that is near and dear to my heart, a crazy good finisher if you've never used it, Mob Rule. Source for 6 mana in red. Choose 1. Gain control of all creatures with power 4 greater until end of turn. Untap those creatures, gain haste until end of turn. Or the exact same thing, but with power 3 or less. So either gain control of all the big creatures or all the small creatures. This is kind of like a mini insurrection for 2 mana less. And it's a lot easier to cast. Yeah, I've seen many games ended with this card. It is a crazy powerful effect just to be like, oh, okay, what's the best things on the board? Oh, people have a lot of big creatures. Cool. Let's take all those. They're all mine. You're all gone. Or, again, if you're playing against like a token strategy or low to the ground strategy. Oh, okay. Looks like there's like 2 big creatures on the board, but there's a ton of tokens, like 40 tokens out there. I'll take them all. I'll swing at you all. I'll take you all out. It's a crazy powerful effect, one that should not be slept on. Next up, Raver's Rebuke. Yes, Cyclonic Rift is better. No, really. Haven't heard of Cyclonic Rift. Didn't know what that was. Anyways, Raver's Rebuke. Sorcerer, 6 mana in total in blue. Return non-land permanents target player controls back to their hand. This is sending one player back to the Stone Age. This is that player probably loses the game. This is literally what this card does. This is everyone else says, whatever we built up essentially at this point. That player is really threatening. Everyone, can we agree that if I just wipe their entire board, you'll like leave me alone for 2 turns? You can make those kind of deals with this kind of a card because this is a I save everyone else. I say that player loses the game card. That's what this does. You say, you're in a great position over there. Goodbye to all of your things and everyone else. Let's gang up on that player and take them out of the game. And we made that deal. So you 2 attack each other for like 2 turns and then you can come at me. So yeah, it's a very, very good effect. Is it as good as Cyclonic Rift? Absolutely not. Nowhere near as flexible, of course. You can't cast it for 2 mana to bounce one thing. It's also not instant speed. It also only affects one player. That being said, that does not mean it's a bad card. In fact, it's a very, very powerful one, especially on a budget. Next up, Wound Reflection. This one I cannot believe is budget-friendly now with that reprint. Enchantment for 6 mana in mono black. Beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life, equal life they lost this turn. Yeah, that's a good effect. That's a little bit of a good effect. So being able to say, you know what? Hey, everyone, on every single end step, let's just double up your pain. So again, whatever I did to you on my turn, let's double that. I played a Gary, I drained some life. Let's just drain twice as much life, essentially. I smacked you. I utilized a bunch of group slug effects, whatever I did. Y'all lose life. Oh, by the way, opponents, when you're hitting each other, not me, your hits count for twice as much. I basically gave all your creatures double strike in a way, essentially, by saying, hey, again, player over there is a problem. You could swing at me with your 6/6 and hit me for that. Ow. Oh, no, you hit me for 6. Or put that 6-power creature to better use. Go hit that player. Counts for 12. You're welcome. It's a crazy powerful effect. Doubling up life loss again. Not just for everyone, but for your opponents. Again, being one-sided, that is absolutely massive. Speaking of doubling things up, the final card I'm going to bring up, Swarm Intelligence. Yes, is it 7 mana? It is. It is 7 mana. It's enchantment for 6 and a blue. That is a lot of mana. That being said, what it does is pretty absurd. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, you may copy that spell, choose arts for the copy. This is, hey, let's cast some haymakers, or let's cast an absurd amount of spells in one turn for crazy value. Your rituals are doubled, essentially it's giving you twice the amount of value. Your draw spells are doubled, digging down deeper in your deck. Yeah, this kind of can be a very combo-y thing once you're set up properly, you know, if you're spell slinging. Or it can just be like, oh, I cast my giant spell, like Villainous Wealth. Huh, what's better than 1? 2. Your finishers become doubly as effective. You're going to finish out the game. It's a crazy good card to get into play. Is it expensive? Absolutely. Is the price expensive? No, just 24 cents. So yeah, these are my picks for my honorable mentions. Love to hear from you in the comments below. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on my honorable mentions. Thoughts on what my budget power 9 are. Again, there is a restriction. Please keep this in mind because I don't want to hear like, what about Soul Ring? Soul Ring! Yes, it might be budget friendly for you, but my rule is $1 or less. And currently Soul Ring is not $1 or less when I recorded this episode. So like if in a week it's like reprinted and then it's like less, then I'm sorry. But right now, not less than $1, so not in the list. So that is a restriction. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on my budget power 9. What would your budget power 9 be? Where am I super wrong? Where am I super right? Should Wayfairs Bobble be in there? Absolutely. Of course it should, right? Anyways, let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you're interested in any of these cards, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And now, of course, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.